Hey, welcome back everybody. So it is Sunday, July 23rd, right at 10:30 in the morning. Temperatures in the low 80s and the humidity is right around 70%. So I'm out here for the second consecutive week, which is a little unusual this time of year. But just like last week, I'm out here just to do a few specific things. Based off last week's inspection, mainly checking a few hives to see if they have rectified their situation. I'm gonna check on number 6 right here, the hive with the vertical brick on top, indicating they are queenless. And then I've been smoking the bees or treating them with oxalic acid throughout the month of July. And what I have noticed over the last few sessions is hive number 15, so the second to last, the hive on the left side with the garden lid, they just don't have a lot of bees. So the rest of the hives, if you haven't watched those videos, mainly 14 and 13 and even the nukes, they have a lot of heavy bearding in the late afternoon, early evening. One, because of temperatures and humidities, but also because they have a huge bee population. So with number 15's less bearding than the rest of the hives, that means they have fewer bees, which also means they probably are queenless because the population is starting to dwindle. So I'm going to take a look at them, figure out if they have a queen or not. And if they don't, the most likely outcome today is combining them with number 15, which is in the green 5-frame box. That's the most recent swarm I caught from late June, early July. And then to bring number 6 into the mix, if they need some help as well, I might also combine them with number 16. And I'll probably end up moving all the bees, or at least combining the hives down on this side of the yard. And then the other thing I'm going to do today is go through all the boxes with honey boxes on there, remove some queen excluders, and let the bees move up and really start using the top box, or well, the queens, let them use the top box to start building the brood chamber up. And then speaking of, this hive here has been doing absolutely fantastic. Every time I come out here, they have a ton of bees orientating, which means their population is really starting to take off. So I might add a medium box to them just to give them some extra space so the queen can extend the brood chamber, and hopefully that helps with overwintering. All right, let's get into the bees and see how they're doing this week. All right, down here at hive, what was hive number 3, they're in the number 4 position now. They were my strongest hive this year. They produced a decent amount of honey, but excellent bee population. So I'm gonna get into them. I found probably 5 to 7 queen cells last week that had hatched from the previous few weeks. That was that Swarmageddon video. Massive swarm in the tree right here. Couldn't rescue them, unfortunately. But I'm trying to figure out if they were queen right. If my memory serves me right, I think I found a queen last week running around, but I did not cage her. That also could have been another colony. I don't exactly remember right now, but nonetheless, ton of queen cells that had hatched out, which is primarily why they swarmed. I'm just trying to see if they're queen right with a laying queen. So obviously I'm gonna look for eggs, and hopefully by now they have some larvae. So let me get some of these top boxes off. I'll remove the queen excluder. Like I said in the intro, probably reduce them to at least one single medium box if they need the space. And I know one of those additional medium boxes can be used down here at the hive in the second position. They have had a ton of orientation flights over the last few weeks. So I'm gonna get into this one last, but they probably need some extra space. So anyway, let's get into this one, get down into the brood chamber, figure out if they're queen right, and then kind of determine what I do next. All right, just got both boxes off. Quick first look at the brood chamber with the queen excluder still on. And if you haven't watched the previous videos, especially from May and early June, a whole lot less bees than there once were. All right, things are looking good. So I'm on the 4th frame. I've started to find some eggs and some very young larvae. Same thing on the other side. Let's just move on to frame number 5 real quick. See if that's looking any better, or if they've actually started to cap any brood just yet. So Let's see, this side, no. Actually, there's a little bit. Not much to really make a determination on. The bees are a lot more calm. I can definitely speak to that from last week or the week before. So that's always a good sign. And there's a lot more larvae on this side, mainly right here. So I'm gonna keep going through the rest of the frames. If I find the queen, I will show that to y'all. And I should have to mark her because this hive definitely swarmed. Now it's just a matter of finding the queen. Like usual, I should have let the camera keep rolling because I just saw her on this side. And where's she at? There she is right there. Beautiful looking queen. All right, let's get her caged so I can mark her. Easy day, like usual. Yeah, just set her aside. I'm gonna go through the rest of the frames, kind of tear down all these old queen cells, and then get her marked, and that'll be it. All right, queen excluder is off. This is the medium box that was directly above the brood chamber, so they can use that to expand the brood chamber once I get the queen marked and released, which I'll do that here in a second. There we go, like a pro. This will be the queen, or should be the queen that carries them through until the spring. A little smaller in size than your spring queens, which is fine because they don't tend to lay as many eggs after the summer solstice, which was June 21st. All right, there we go. She's marked. Let her dry off, get her released, and that's that. All right, it's nice to see they are queen right. She is marked. There we go, come on out. And there she goes. All right, so that went extremely well for hive number 3, and as y'all saw, I reduced them to a single medium box, no queen excluder, and I moved the very top box over here on top of the hive in the second position. That's the hive that has a very nice, healthy orientation, flight of bees going on recently, so I'll get into them last. I think I said that before, and I won't be surprised if they are looking extremely well. And then I'm gonna give them this box, or at least that's the plan for now, that has quite a few frames with some nice food stores, and that should help get them into the fall. As long as we have a nice goldenrod nectar flow, the bees should be doing very well. All right, let's get into this next one that's been queenless for a little bit, and then that will determine whether or not I end up combining a few colonies today. All right, so I forgot that I removed the queen excluder a few weeks ago, so I just went through both medium boxes and combined the best food frames with about 4 or 5 frames from the box directly on top of the brood chamber that had a lot of bees favoring those frames. So I'm just going to put this back together, remove this box, and then get into the bottom box and figure out if they've become queen right in the last several weeks. And looks like it's pretty much the same. The hive is really just favoring these few frames, so let me go through them, and they should have some kind of evidence they're queen right by now. And if they're not, back to plan A, which is combining them with a few other colonies that probably can be combined. All right, just finished looking at the last frame Yeah, nothing's changed since the week before. Absolutely no brood at all. So I am going to combine these bees with 15 and 16 once I get into them. Unfortunately, this colony doesn't really offer much more than its bee population, since they don't have any brood, or they don't really have any, well, I was gonna say food stores, but that they do have the top box. So yeah, let me get down to the end of the yard, look at 15. 16's good. That's the most recent swarm that I moved into the 5-frame box a few weeks ago. But from what I remember, 15 was also a swarm. You can see the color difference in the frames, and we can easily identify the frames that were in the swarm box, or a few of them. So let's get into them, take a look, see what they got going on, why they have such a low bee population or bearding in the early afternoon, like I mentioned in the intro, and then basically come up with a plan to get a few of these hives combined. Otherwise, I mean, they'll completely die off, most likely. Wax moths will move in, and that is a mess that you never want to have to clean up. I've experienced it a few times over the years. It's nasty. Your comb basically is completely ruined, and yeah, you just don't want to have to experience that. All right, before we get into 15 over here, I wanted to get into 14, and if my memory serves me right, they had a new queen. I think I found her a few weeks ago, and they seem to be getting a little honey bound, which is why I added this medium box very late in the season with a queen excluder, hoping to contain the queen down below, of course, but also hoping, given the extra space, the bees would move some resources around upward into the extra box to give the queen some space to start laying more eggs. So let's get into them real quick, see if that's actually worked, and if it hasn't, I'll end up removing the queen excluder and or the top box. But let's see how they're looking first, and then make a determination before making a plan. All right, just took the top off, gave them some smoke, so they're definitely up in this top box. Let's take off this inner cover and see exactly what they've been doing over the last few weeks since adding that top box. All right, very center frame. There's actually a decent amount of bees in the top box here, and if you can see that or not, they've been storing some nectar, so that's nice to see. Unfortunately, this is an older frame. The rest of the frames are new, and they don't really have that much foundation drawn out, as you can see. But considering I have another box over there that does have some better foundation, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to set this frame aside. I'm going to take this newer frame and put it back. I'm going to remove this box, and then on the other side of the yard, one of the boxes I just removed that has a lot more drawn comb, I'm going to make the best box possible out of those two, and then probably re-add that after I get down into the brood chamber, so they have more drawn comb, and maybe the queen can use that to expand the brood chamber for overwinter preparation. All right, just removed the queen excluder. I wanted to give you all a first look. They have a very healthy population of bees, so let's get down into them and see if they're queen right, and if we can find her. I don't remember if she's marked or not, so if she's not, we'll take care of that too today. All right, this is a bit unusual. So I'm on the second to last frame. The bees are very calm. However, it looks like they are completely honey bound, which kind of tells me they may not have a queen. So the confusing part to me is the calmness of the colony. Ton of food stores. I mean, strong colony, a lot of bees. They're doing nothing but bringing in food, which is fantastic to see. But it doesn't look like they have a queen. So I'm actually glad I got into this one, because they might be a very good, yeah, it looks like it. So as you can see, some capped honey on the top here. A lot of open cells, which this is the most open cells I've found so far, and absolutely no capped brood and no signs of a queen, no eggs, nothing. So yeah, it looks like they're queenless. They may have been queenless for quite some time, but all right, so they're a good contender to be combined. So 14, 15, and 16 for sure has a queen. So out of these three, I'm gonna try and make one strong one. All right, before things get too hectic, so 14's been on a screen bottom board for a while, but given the seasonal change, I want to get 15 solid bottom board onto 14. 14 has a ton of bees. 15, this is what I was saying earlier, they still have some bees, and as you can see, what is this, 3, 6, yeah, 6 out of the 10 frames are brand new. These 4 were probably from the swarm trap. So I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. I'm not surprised if they're queenless, and if they are, if these frames are okay to move over. 14 might have one frame that could be replaced with one of these, but then 16 has 5 frames, so I might move these 5. I'm just thinking out loud at this point. I might combine 15 with, or 16 with 15, move these 5 into here, so that would give them those 5 frames plus these 4, that's 9, plus 1 new frame. And then I'm thinking about just putting 14's brood chamber that has no brood, a ton of food, trying to figure out how to combine these 3. I'm thinking I might move 14 on top of their inner cover, ventilated inner cover, so the pheromones can come combined over the next week, and then remove that in a week or so. Anyway, let me get into these 2 first, figure out what's going on, and then I'll show you my final plan here. All right, just finished up going through what was hive 15, not surprised, 4 frames, very sad colony if you want to call it that. Basically just a few bees hanging out on a few frames, no brood, no real food. They probably would have survived the next few months leading into the fall due to us now being in a DERF. So what a good time for hive number 14 to be queenless for quite some time, for me to be out here to look at things. They are really honey bound food. So I'm gonna get into 16 now, just to double check their queen rate from last week, get those 5 frames moved over to what was 15, and then still think about how to combine 14, 15, and 16. And I know she's marked, so hopefully they've just been developing some brood over the last week or so. There she is right there. Let me get her caged. Right, now where'd she go? There she is. Let me get her caged. She's in there. All right, so now I can comfortably move around. I really just try to figure out the best combination, because these frames aren't the best either, and even though they have 5, I was just trying to make the best out of the situation, so obviously I'm not going to really count that one. All right, here's the final configuration. So I believe it's either this frame or this frame had some nice cat brood from what was hive number 16. So basically I did a new frame on the bottom, and on top of that frame, which will be the top box, is an established frame with nice food stores. And I pretty much did that throughout, so checkerboarded both boxes, but opposite. So new, old, new, as best as I could. So again, to recap, 16 is being combined with whatever we want to call this, 15 and 14. 14 had a ton of bees and a great food supply. So now I'm trying to figure out how to combine them so they don't kill the queen. So the queen, granted, all right, let's see here. Let's get her released. I'm gonna release her in this box here that now has the solid bottom board. And I'm doing that because this is, like I said a few seconds ago, this was one of the frames that had brood from what was hive 16. There she go. Yeah, I guess she's quick. All right, so she's down in there. So now I'm thinking best way to just give them as much time as possible for pheromones to settle and spread is I'm going to use the inner cover, and then I'm going to put the bottom box, or actually the top box, which was primarily hive 14, on top of this one, and then get them closed up, come out in about a week, and hopefully they still have a queen. And as I do this, I don't think it's going to work because that creates a gap. That creates a gap, which would probably result in robbing because there's a ton of food in here. So, all right. What I'm about to do is what I was really trying to prevent, which is essentially a shotgun wedding between the colonies, but sometimes I guess you don't really have too many options. So there you go. In a very indirect manner, ended up combining hives 14, 15, and 16, again with 16's queen and primarily 14's bees. Hive 15 was probably on their way out in the next month, so I will check on them in about a week and see if this actually worked. All right, that was fun. So let's give them a lid. Let's see, I can put 15 on the bottom here. All right, I'm about to finish a few things up. So as you all saw earlier, I removed one of the top boxes from hive number 3. Actually set it down on top of one of the singles that I intended to add it to, and that turned out to start a little bit of a robbing frenzy, which I knew was not a good idea, but I didn't really have anywhere to put it. I could have transferred it right away, but I didn't because there was other things I wanted to get into. So hopefully this doesn't cause too many problems, but I plan on putting that box onto hive number 2 here once I get into them. And then I have another box over here, not as many food stores, which is why it's not being robbed as heavily, but I plan on putting that on hive number 3 once I check them out. So check out this chaos. Oh man, this is what it looks like when you end up combining three colonies. They'll settle down, give them an hour or two, but if I didn't do that now, 2 of those 3 colonies would not have survived the winter, or at least made it to the fall. But yeah, let me finish up by getting into number 2 and 3, add this box, and like I said, this box, and that'll be it for today. This is a strong colony, and let me show you. It just took me about 10 seconds to pry this lid off, and here's why. Good God, they are bringing in the propolis. All right, just added this box, which was the top box from number 3, I believe, to the hive in the 2nd position. Ton of bees on it. Created a little bit of a robbing frenzy, which is never a good thing. So hopefully that settles down here in a little bit. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If that doesn't come up on camera, Yeah. Maybe we'll just give them some smoke. So we are in a derf right now, and I knew better for sure to set a honey box, or at least a box with a ton of food stores. I knew better than to set that out, but I did not think the bees would react this way that quickly. But I guess you could say I was wrong. So I'm just going to try and smoke them as much as possible. I'll probably put an entrance reducer on number 2 here, like I did on the stacked 5 frame here in the number 1 position. Hopefully to try and prevent those colonies from being robbed out and eventually killed. But yeah, check it out. There are bees all over the place where they usually aren't. So they'll settle down here in a few hours once they realize the food's gone. But yeah, I'm just gonna put that box, like I said earlier, on top of number 3, and that'll be it for today. Just pop the top on number 3, and yeah, they are a healthy colony. So they could probably benefit from extra space, which is exactly what I'm gonna give them. And my hopes are a few things. Hopefully the queen uses this space to build a brood chamber into the winter, and hopefully they take advantage of any sort of goldenrod flow in the fall. All right, as I was wrapping things up, I decided no time like the present, so I'm actually going to combine number 5 with number 6, which I got into earlier. They are queenless. 5 was queen right last week. I'm sure they're still queen right, so I'm just going to combine those 2, which should be pretty easy, because as y'all saw earlier, number 6 has quite a few frames that the bees aren't doing anything with. So essentially I'm just going to move the 5 frames from number 5 into number 6's bottom box. Since both colonies have a few new frames, or a few frames the bees really haven't been doing much on, they're not going to have 10 full frames of nice drawn comb, but we'll get them pretty close. And I don't remember if I marked her or not. I'm looking around. I have some larvae. Yeah, larvae and food. I may not have found her last time, but I was satisfied the fact that they had larvae. So we'll see. And this is the frame that always gets me, because they built it off of the plastic foundation, so she could be behind there. In fact, that's what hive number 16's queen was doing as I got into that box. She started to run behind some comb. Okay, well, I'm going to mark this colony with a vertical brick to indicate they still might be queenless. So that's just something for me to follow up on next week, just to kind of check on whatever we call that down there, I guess number 14, the 3 hives that I combined, and this one. All right, that's it for now. All right, everybody, that does it for me. It's just after 12 o'clock. As you can see, what I say is sometimes a short and simple time in the bee yard turns out not to be exactly that. Combined those last 3 into one good one. That top box, actually, since I mixed them up, those 2 boxes have a ton of food stores. They have a queen for sure, as long as they don't kill her. I'll check on that in a week, and then I leave the old equipment down below just because there's some bees clinging to the sides, and if you give them a few hours or a few days, they'll eventually all settle into there. And then what else did I do here? Combine number 5 and 6. So check on them in another week. Again, the bees will settle here in a few hours and a few days. Added number 3's top box, or a top box, to number 2. Number 3 got a box from, I believe, maybe number 14, or actually 15. And then put an entrance reducer on number 1 and number 2, because foolish me, I set one of those top boxes over here, I think on top number 2, created a little bit of a robbing frenzy, which is why you see bees all over the place. Move the box over here for a little bit, as y'all saw, but give them a few hours or a few days and everything will settle down. All right, well, hey, hopefully y'all enjoyed this video. Just sharing what I do with bees. And hey, if you're looking for any local honey, we have some in stock. Click on that Linktree link up in the YouTube banner. It'll take you to our Linktree, which has every single way to contact us. Just reach out to us and we will coordinate something that works for you to get you some of our honey. This is what I should have did earlier. Should have moved any top box or any honey box that I took off a hive over here well away from the bee yard to prevent any sort of robbing frenzy. But that is not what I did. And then later today, I'm thinking once I get done with some family stuff that we usually do on Sunday afternoons, I'm gonna go over to the corner of the property and remove the last swarm trap that is up in one of the trees, because swarm activities really died down. Plus any swarms in July, especially late July, as the expression goes, let them fly or aren't worth a fly, something like that. Meaning they don't really do that well. Queens are a little weaker. They don't really have much of a natural food source or nectar flow this time of year to really feed the bees and get the colony healthy. So historically, any swarm that's caught in July through the fall really doesn't do all that well or survive the winter. One last look at the chaos that is today. All right, see y'all next time.